Okay, so Vayikra. So Vayikra is known in Chazal as Torat Kohanim. Now, if you remember, I put this up as slightly a straw man, though it really is how many people do think about it, including, major people. That Torat Kohanim really just means that the theme of Vayikra is about the Karbanot. How do you explain the second half of the Sefer? Kedoshim and Kashrus and, all types of, Kashrus and Shmini and things like that, and etc. So, look, I'll read the Ramban.
Shmini has the story with the Kohen.
Yeah, but it also has, Kashrus.
That happened around that time also.
Yeah, so the Ramban really does try to defend this, right? He says, "Sefer Hazehu Torat Kohanim uLeviyim Yivaer Bo Inyanei HaKarbanot Kulan Mishmeret HaMishkan." Right? It is about the Karbanot, the Mishkan, how you protect the Mishkan. Ki kasher haya sefer echad binyan hagalud v'agula mimenu. The second sefer of Chumash is about Galud and Geula. That's what we know as Shemot. V'shlimu binyan ol moed echvod Hashem asher milei Mishkan, and then it finished with God's presence coming to the Mishkan. Shiveu v'karbanot v'shmirat Mishkan. Shiu karbanot kapara lahen v'leigmru avonot l'silush hashchina. So you need the Karbanot. Now he adds, why? Because, now, we've talked about the connection between, we already did this, right? The double end of Shemot, I think, several times.
The double end, you mean the Mishkan?
No. The last 5 psukim, how they subdivide. We did this in the Mishmar. So if I have to, I'll do it again. But
okay.
for now, right, he just points out, right, the way the Ramban conceptualizes it is that the end of Shemot, God's presence descends to the Mishkan. Vayikra tells you, how do you ensure that God doesn't leave the Mishkan? The answer is, do everything you're supposed to do in the Mishkan, i.e. Karbanot, i.e. Sefer Vayikra. V'tziva b'kohanim nigashim el Hashem shitkadashu, she'izhar tumat mikdashu kadashav. And God has to warn the Kohanim not to become impure. V'gam shel yisur la'alod el Hashem, and that they shouldn't go up to heaven when they're not supposed to, right, to the Mishkan or whatever. K'moshe amar diber l'Aaron achicha v'yavo b'chol edo l'kodesh b'beit l'baruch ha'bnei kapor asher l'Aaron v'lo yamud ki b'anan yireh l'kaporet, right? Like when Hashem says to Moshe, tell Aaron, don't go in at all times. Ka'az harat pen yarsu al Hashem l'rot v'nafal mimenu rav, and the Ramban, following his parallels of Har Sinai, said that, right, just like Har Sinai, where you couldn't go in whenever you wanted, you can't go into the Mishkan whenever you want. V'achar kach yagbil Mishkan gagvalat Har Sinai. And then we set up, right, boundaries on the Mishkan, just like we do at Sinai.
Right.
V'nei rov hasefer hazeh b'karbanot. Then he says, okay, the majority of this book is about karbanot, right? Because that's the theme. B'torat hakarban v'amikrivim b'makom shitkarev bo. What you bring, when you bring, where you bring. V'vo bo k'tzat mitzvat nigrot emeila. And the other things, this is like classic Meiri on the Gemara, right? This is the point of the Mishnah. Dvarim hanigrarim bo. And then there's all the stuff that sort of were parenthetical that came along. Correct. So he says the same things. Timit chilatzi v'abrakom v'avasar v'adam v'avuram. V'achrei kach sirva karbanat ached v'nigrar achzel asker machal masram bavur shehem mitamim. Right. So he said we start with optional karbanot, and then we talk about forbidden fat and blood. Because we're already talking about them, right? Because Chelef and Dam are part of the process, so let's just talk about Chelef and Dam, is once we've mentioned those words. And we talk about Karbanot Ached, so we talk about not kosher food, because some of them have tumot attached to them as well, which would prevent you from having Karbanot, so kashrus is sort of like parenthetically related. She is kirkvar. Vutrach la'azkir Torah MiTzion mishpatei yoledet v'azav l'chayev adam b'karban la'azir od mitum adam kasher amar b'sofam. That this does make sense. Right? Obviously, you need to talk about tumat yoledet and tumat mitzora because karbanot are at the end of them. Right?
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. V'zardim mitzram mitum adam levitum mitum tamet mishkanei shebetocham v'nigrar achar zeh sheitzir al harayot k'mishkan mitamei v'onam yikra tumat. Now it gets a little bit more sketchy, because he says, and then we talk about the arayot, because sin is called tumah. Right? So we're talking about tumah, and then he says, and gorei l'siluka shchina v'legalud, and it causes the shchina to go away, and galud, v'od ki hashogig behen mechuyav chatan. Then he says, oh yeah, and if you did it by accident, then you would bring a karban. כשהזכיר כבר בו נפש אחת תחת בשגגה, ואחר כן הזכיר מצוות השבת אמר, and then look, and then he says, and then Emor talks about holidays, right? Right? Emor talks about holidays, right? Because Shabbat Moadeshim Bavur Karban, because, Karban are brought on holidays. Okay, I mean, they are. Virov Parshiot Kohanim, and most of the Parsha talks about Kohanim. Daber Alarim Banav, Tavad Arim Banav, Parsha Kedoshim K'tzat Mitzvot Levnei Israel, Ruban Nigrot Eminei Karbanot B'Domim Lahem. So that is where he gets really shady. And he says, and then Kedoshim, which is the one that really doesn't work this model, right? Ahavta L'orecha Kamocha, like I don't know what that has to do with Karbanot. He has this very cryptic comment, and he says, most of them have something to do with Karbanot or something like that.
Right? Unless you count sin as something like that, all of them have something.
Great. So, but the Ramban's theory is basically, when we call it Torat Kohanim, it's because that really is the theme, and everything else is like, you've just got to sort of explain why it was like God's stream of consciousness. Now, I presented very briefly in when we did the Mishmar that the alternate thesis, which I find more compelling, because at some point there are so many exceptions, right? That you've just got to come up with a new rule, is what David Tzvi Hoffman argues, which is no, Kohanim has two meanings in Tanakh. It means Kohen and it means Am Yisrael, because Atem Tiyuli Mamlachet Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh. And the point of Sefer Vayikra is to teach you how to be a Kohen. Half of it is the Kohanim in the Mikdash. Half of it is how you make Yisrael Kadosh, right? Kedoshim Tihu, right? Which is Mamlechet Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh, right? We are Kadosh, therefore we are Kohanim. Right. And he argues that the point, right? And that's the point of Vayikra, is to teach you what it means to be a Kohen. And the key to Vayikra, and this is something we'll develop a little bit more in the week, is that as much as you think it's about the Karbanot and about the Mishkan, the whole point is that the lessons of the Mishkan, the holiness of the Mishkan, are supposed to overflow, right? We're supposed to be inspired by the concentration of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the camp, and it's supposed to overflow into inspiring Am Yisrael so that they can be Kohanim, and therefore those are two conceptually distinct models, right? But they are related by this notion of Kahuna, right? And they aren't totally related. It's not just a linguistic connection. The point is that what allows us to be the Kohanim for the world is that we have the Mishkan in our midst and we have God at our center, right? Now, again, I did this in short version in that Mishmar and a slightly longer version now, right? The reason I think David Tzvi Hoffman comes up with this thesis, which I find much more compelling, it's like I just read you the Ramban, right? I don't want to bias you. I wanted to literally read it, right? And you see, right? He has to say, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, right? Like, you understand by the end of it, he thinks that this is Shmini is parenthetical, right? Tazria Mitzvah, okay, I'm willing to buy that, right? That they're Karbanot at the end, right? Achremot, Kedoshim, Bahar, and he doesn't even explain B'chukosai. Right? It's just not even right? It's not even a thing. Like, the Tochacha at the end. Right? We're talking here like 40% of the Sefer. This isn't like a random comment, right? This is like, and that's why I think that the other thesis is right. And as we'll see, I think that thesis does play out even in terms of how the Karbanot themselves are organized. That's something we'll see tomorrow. Okay.